What's up, folks, and welcome to Indie Ramble. Yes, it is time for yet another shmup, but this one I think you guys are going to think is pretty cool because it's not only a brand new entry in a long-running and well-regarded series, but it brings a frankly incredible amount to the table in terms of variety and different gameplay mechanics, and a lot of things we just frankly haven't seen before, and those are the best kind of shmups to me. So this is Cotton Fantasy, and well, if you've been around here for frankly not even that long, you know that I have covered some of the re-releases of some of the classic 16-bit Cotton games on this channel, so you should be able to see something up there that'll tell you how to get to those if you want to check those out. But this is a brand new game, and well, it's kind of incredible because, well, it's rather frantic as you can see, but there is an amazing amount to this, and I'm going to show you right now what I mean by that. So, you got a story mode, you've got a very robust training mode that actually offers a crazy amount of options to help you sort of hone your craft, if you will, with this. You've got full online leaderboards. There's only a couple of limitations with this. No replays, which is a nice to have, I know, but I really wish more games had that because it's a really good learning tool in my opinion. And though it will show you your rank on the leaderboards, you can only scroll the top 100 entries, which of course are all basically esports grade players. So I do wish they would allow you to browse further down. That would be nice as well. But you know, they work pretty well, all things considered. But here's where things get really crazy. So there is a story to this. You know, the Cotton series is always, I mean, it's known as a cute 'em up, right? It's a really good shmup, but it is incredibly, I think the term is twee, incredibly cutesy. The voice acting is, to me, rather grating, but some people are into that. So you gotta be into that, but you can minimize that if you want as well, which I'll show you later. But this is the crazy thing. Check out all these characters. And these are not just cosmetic in nature. Every single one of these characters plays completely differently, has totally different weapons, totally different mechanics. Some of them even have a different way that their lives are calculated. It's nuts. Some are more difficult than others as well, but it gives you a frankly insane amount of replayability, and something that I think is really neat. You're not going to blow through this game quickly. And as modern shmups go, this game isn't cheap, so it's nice to see that they're giving you a lot of value in that. So I'm going to start here with the sort of main character, which is Cotton. There is a story in this. I don't really care, frankly, about it, but you might. But the nice thing is you can turn off the cutscenes, as well as some of the more repetitive, high-pitched voice acting that can happen during the levels, which is turned off here. So every character has a little tutorial. These are all skippable, but because they all play very differently, I definitely recommend checking them out. We'll cycle through a couple of different characters here so that I can show you some of the more significant differences that you'll come across. I won't show you everybody because that'll take too long, but Cotton plays more like a standard shmup character. She has her special is a bomb attack, and you can either auto shot your regular weapon or you can shoot it manually. There's also a button that will charge up a magical attack that you'll get by collecting crystals in the world. You can also level up your character's abilities by collecting yellow crystals within the world. And every one of the characters has a very different way that those specials and magic attacks are utilized. And you've really got to make sure that you use them to their fullest if you want to both score high and have the most chance of one crediting the game. So there's these cutscenes in between levels. This one is fairly long. It's a cutesy, weird, you know, Japanese cartoon story. I don't really care, but if you want it, it's there. It's pretty neat. So we'll skip through this. The presentation in this overall is fantastic. You know, the cutscenes have those really nice hand-drawn characters. The game runs at a rock-solid 60 frames a second. It's colorful. There's a lot of frantic action going on, as you'll see right here. It's really just super polished overall. They did a great job with this, I think. So you're going to see that there's a ton of stats in that score UI in the upper left corner. So the other thing that's interesting about this is how its combo system works. So a lot of games have a combo system, which is how you want to maximize your score. And most of the time, you raise the combo system up by simply killing enemies. Not so with this one. The way you actually increase the combo is by either utilizing your magic or special attacks, and that will cause the enemies to drop all those sort of bells that you saw there. And then what you want to do is to keep the multiplier up, you want to kill enemies either by special attacks or regular attacks as fast as you possibly can. The multiplier doesn't reset to 0 when its timer runs out, but it ticks down very rapidly, as you can see there in the corner. So you really want to try your best to keep that up. And that's not just through making sure you utilize as many magic and special attacks as possible, but also making sure that you don't overdo it and that you always have enemies on the screen to hit to keep the multiplier up. Because if you take too long, or you get a little greedy, like I often do, and you take out enemies too quickly, that you won't get more spawning on the screen before the multiplier starts to tick down. It maxes out at 99, as you can see, and your aim is to keep it there if at all possible. So, and that's how you get the big money in this game. So you got to watch for that. As you can see, dying doesn't even reset it, but there's a delay, so it will make it tick down somewhat. So you want to get right back into it as fast as you can. So you can only use these magic attacks when you have magic stacked up in the corner there, which you get by picking up those crystals, which are reasonably plentiful, depending on the character. And so this first level here is pretty easy, but we're going to show you one of the other cool things that this game does to make things a little easier for you. And of course, this is a cotton game, so at the end of every level, you've got the tea time thing, which I've never understood. You have to pick up these weird little lantern things, which give you points. I don't know what that has to do with tea or anything, but it wouldn't be a cotton game if it didn't have this. And then, of course, you get bonuses based on a whole bunch of different factors, which is really cool. The bonuses are actually not that high compared to what you'll score in general, but nonetheless, you want to max that out if you can. So as you can see, very Japanese. You know, that's either for you or not. But this is what's really cool is after you beat the first level, all of the other ones become available. And you may have seen on the leaderboards when I showed you that before, that every leaderboard entry, it shows the path that the person who earned it took. And that's because depending on the character you're playing, if you want to max your score out the most, you may want to... Oh, trophy. You may want to actually approach the levels in different ways in order to make sure that you'll score the most possible depending on the character you're playing. So while the game doesn't offer replays, it does offer you that little glimpse into perhaps how somebody obtained the score by going, yeah, they played the levels in this order, so maybe you want to do that. That's kind of a cool thing. This isn't the first game to do that, but it's a nice little addition to see. And as you can see there as well, your character has experience, which will impact their power level and whatnot as well. There's a lot going on in this thing. And I think that's actually really cool. You know, I don't dislike the old Cotton games. In fact, the old Cotton titles brought a lot of innovations to the genre for their time as well. A lot of shmups that come out even today, even good ones, are somewhat traditional. You know, they've got very standard mechanics. They don't often tend to try new things. A lot of the shmups that I showcase on this channel, so I'm going to change characters here so we can show you somebody else. A lot of the shmups I showcase on this channel are ones that I do think bring something innovative to the table. But I've played a lot of other ones as well that I think are quite good, even if they play it rather safe mechanically. This takes some pretty big deviations, in my opinion. So this character is really interesting. As you can see, she doesn't have lives. She has a timer. And as long as you keep that timer up, it will drop rapidly if you take damage, but you can get hit as many times as you want, and you won't credit out until the timer runs out. And you increase the timer by picking up crystals that will drop from the enemies. Totally different way to play, and it makes you think completely differently about how you approach the levels and the different enemy types. And there are other enemies in this that have very different specials, and I'll try to show you them. One has sort of a wand that you send out that can drastically change how your special your magic attacks progress through the map, and greatly impact as well how your how the magic progresses through the map, and also allows you to attack enemies in different ways. There's another one that she like rides a blowfish looking thing, and she basically has the abilities to suck in enemies Kirby style and shoot them back at other enemies. And depending on the ones that she picks up, that'll have sort of a different result. You know, again, totally different ways to play the game, and each character, there's a couple that are maybe a little bit similar, but there are no two that are exactly alike. They're all going to require that you learn how to play them differently. So if you want to beat the game with every character, you're going to put in some hours. If you want to 1cc them with every character, well, this is going to be your only game for a while. And I think that's really cool. You know, this is a shmup that comes at a bit of a premium price, but I think they justify that by offering all of this stuff and things that, you know, I play a lot of different shmups, and the character variety in this is something I've absolutely never seen anywhere else. And I really am impressed by that. You know, when I was offered code for this game, I was like, yeah, you know what? It's a cotton game. The old cotton games are cool. I don't care for the motif, if you will, but they play really well. And so I thought, this is a new one of these. It'll probably be fine. But it honestly really surprised me how much they brought into it. And this is clearly a game that had some very passionate developers working on it, and developers who had a good budget. Like, to do all this, to design all these characters and, you know, flesh out all these different gameplay types, this is not, this required some real investment to make. And there's a lot of good shmups these days. The shmup genre is undergoing kind of a renaissance right now that is fantastic to see. But it's mostly being led by indies and very small companies. You know, I still consider this indie to a point because it is a relatively small team that made it. It's definitely not a AAA title. But, you know, a lot of the indie developed shmups are very small teams that either are playing it safe or are doing something different, but are not able to do this many different characters that all play the same because it's just not practical for them. But with this one, they clearly put in some real time and effort to make something that has an incredible amount of variety, which I really like. So I'm going to switch to another one. This is the one with the wand that I was telling you about. Now, the game says that she's one of the harder characters to play. I don't think she's the hardest I've run into, to be honest. I was doing pretty well with her, but you definitely got to spin a lot of plates with this one. So you're going to see she has this wand thing, right? So when she uses a magic attack, the wand is what fires it, not her. So what's cool about that is you can see when you're charging your magic, you can actually change the direction of the wand. So this can allow you to come at enemies from a different angle where you're not necessarily having to get up and face them directly, which can be really, really handy depending on the type of enemy that you're playing against. And her special is that she sends out the wand like that and can recall it. The wand itself can damage enemies, but if you're firing a magic attack off, you can send the wand out ahead of you while that attack is in progress, and it gives you an entirely new way to approach the enemy layouts in the levels and perhaps do damage to enemies, you know, earlier than you would normally be able to, or potentially to be able to get out ahead of enemy waves. Because you see right there, I lost a whole pile of combo because I didn't have I basically cleared the screen out too early, and there were too many enemies there. There was too big a delay between when we got more enemies on the screen. Well, if you look like you might be in a situation like that, you can send the wand out ahead of yourself and do some damage to enemies right as they enter the screen, which all of a sudden gives you an advantage to keep your combo going. And I've actually found, as you can see right here, I've actually found keeping the combo going for a long period with this character to be much more straightforward. But because you got to manage your magic attacks, whether you throw the wand out and what direction it's facing in, you got to balance a lot of plates, and some players are going to find this more difficult than others. And that's what I like. Depending on the type of player you are, all of these characters are going to be very different, and some of them are going to be easier for you than they will be for others. And it makes things also more accessible because it allows players of different types and indeed different skill levels to play this and still not just have a good time, but have a good chance of getting further in it, depending on what way they can make work the easiest for them. And I think that's really, really impressive. I think the developers behind this have really raised the bar in a lot of ways for this kind of game. They could have just made a game that played like the old Cotton titles and just was that with newer graphics, and it probably would have done fine. There would have been enough of a fan base for it that people would have shown up, people would have played it, and people would have been like, yeah, you know, this is good. I enjoy this well enough. But they made something that really has, I think, in many ways, pushed the entire genre forward and justified the fact that they're charging a pretty good amount for this compared to a lot of other shmups that are on the market right now. Unfortunately, I do think a lot of people are going to look at the price and just be put off by it right away. They're going to go, that's too expensive. I'm not even going to bother trying that out. I think this game really needs a demo because I don't think they can really show in the trailers or the blurb on the digital storefronts why there's so much value in this game and how long you can play it if you want to use all the characters and why it's worth that extra high price tag. I think if they put a demo out that either had all the characters but it was on a timer, or only had a couple of the characters but showed all the ones that were available and how differently they all play, that it would be a much easier sell to some people. You know, I don't know, I ain't no game industry business guy, but that's how I see it. You know, if I had come across this on the PlayStation Store on my own, if I wasn't covering it, I probably would have seen the price and been like, yay. But if I knew this about it, I would have been like, no, actually, that's pretty cool, and there's a lot to that. I think I'm going to put my money down and give this a go. And so that would be something they could think of. Also, at time of recording anyway, this game is only out on PlayStation and Switch. I don't know why. You know, the PlayStation and Xbox are very similar on the inside. Just put it on there. And PlayStation and Xbox now are basically PCs anyway. The Steam shmup community is reasonably large and extremely passionate. I think this would do very well on those platforms. You took the time to port it to Switch. Putting it on the other ones would be a lot easier. I don't know why they do that, but I think it would behoove them to put these on the other systems, at least on PC. I know PC shmup players would show up in droves for this if it was available to them. So maybe that'll happen at some point. I really hope it does, because I think this title should get in front of as many people as possible, because, you know, if it hasn't been made obvious at this point already, I think this is something pretty special, actually. And even as someone who who will play well-made cute-em-ups in spite of the cuteness part of it, this really impressed me. This is a game I'm going to put some real time into, and that I actually really hope I can get better at, and maybe even try to 1cc. I've been thinking about a game to really try to push hard to 1cc on, and this might be a good one to do that. You know, you do it with one character, and then you can do it with another one, and then another one, right? I think there's some real potential to that. So yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of what I wanted to say on this one. I think it's really, really good, and I think the amount of flexibility it gives you in terms of the characters and the different play styles, and like I said, the fact that you can even turn off, you know, if you don't like the cutesy parts of it, you can just turn it straight off and not have to care, you know. And I think that's really nice, and it sort of shows that they're thinking of all kinds of players with this and really trying to broaden this beyond its most core fan base, which I think shmups need to do if they want to really grow and thrive in this new age. So yeah, that is Cotton Fantasy. It is out now. I definitely recommend checking it out. If you like the Cotton series, you probably already own it. But if you don't, and you do like shmups, or if you're someone who thinks you might like shmups, but you need something to sort of ease you into it and that's a little easier but can ramp up the challenge, this is worth the price, even though it's expensive. I really do think you should give that a try. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. If you liked what you saw here, as usual, please do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment down below. Tell me, you know, what do you think about this? Are you someone who's not normally into these who might be interested in grabbing it? You know, are there other kinds of shmups like this that you think are really breaking the mold and innovating things that I haven't talked about here? Because I'd love to know about that. The genre is really making a comeback, and I really like to see things like this that are doing something different. And as always, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction for multiple variety streams a week. I cover a lot of indies over there that are better suited to streaming than YouTube. We have a fantastic community, and I'd love to see you be a part of it. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you on the next Indie Ramble. You folks have yourselves a good one. Take it easy.